What's up, everybody? Noah Hiles, Chris Carter here from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And Chris, it's been a while. But we finally get to recap a Pitt win. The Panthers upset number 14 Louisville. Final score 38-21. And just a very impressive victory. And I think we would say that even if both of these teams were undefeated, Pitt just looked like a solid ball club through 4 quarters here at Acrisure Stadium. We're going to do the good, bad, and ugly. Chris, I'll let you start off. What's your good?
My good is the second half defense from Pitt. They did allow 21 points in the first half, but a complete shutout in the second half. Very reminiscent to their ACC championship win over Wake Forest a couple years back. But in this second half, 8 drives for Louisville. Also, they were the number 4 offense in the ACC coming into this game. 2 of those drives resulted in interceptions. One was a pick six by MJ Devonshire, who continues to keep doing those. You had a missed field goal. You had 1 punt and 4 turnovers on downs. Pitt kept winning on those money downs. Louisville was 5 of 15 on third downs, 0 for 4 on fourth downs in this game. That, to me, is a huge testament to this defense being prepared and being able to make big plays in this game.
Yeah, I'll go with my good on the other side of the football. It was the quarterback play. Christian Veilleux, first career start, and you take down the top 14 team, or the number 14 team in the country. Was he amazing? No. What did he finish? 12 of 26, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. But in all reality, that is all Pitt needs from its quarterback to win the bulk of its football games. If they got that type of production out of Phil Jurkovec in weeks 1 through 5, this team would probably be ranked right now. Yeah. And that sounds like we're exaggerating when we say that just one player would make that big of a difference, but I don't think it is, which goes into my bad, which is it's bad that this took so long to happen. So many people were calling for Veilleux to replace Jurkovec. I personally think it probably could have happened after the West Virginia loss, but they waited too long, and those 2 conference losses, you can't recover from that. And I'm not convinced they beat North Carolina with Veilleux. Obviously, he played in that game, but he came in as a backup, and that's just a different rhythm to things.
And Phil wasn't bad that first.
Yeah, and Phil, he wasn't. But I think if you play him against Virginia Tech, there's more stability. It just looked like a more comfortable offense. It looked like the line was more comfortable blocking for him. Yeah. It looked like there was more balance, more comfortable play calling, and more comfortable connections from quarterback to receiver.
Bub Means also said when we talked to him after the game that when they came out, and they're 3 and outs, and that's my bad, is the bad start. But Bub Means talked about how even when that was happening, he said that Christian was telling guys, "Hey, stay focused. We're going to get this. We're going to get this." And he kept everyone's spirits up. And when he finally hit on that deep ball to Bub Means for a touchdown, that ignited something in the offense. And you saw more routine throws after that. But that's where my bad is the slow start itself. 3 and outs to start the game. Christian Veilleux starting 0-5. Now, Veilleux admitted, he's like, "Hey, I was a little bit antsy to come out." And that's natural. When you're making your first start, it's a major opponent on the other side of the ball. I get that. But this has been a problem for a lot of Pitt's games this year. They have started slow, and it puts them in holes. They were able to climb out of it today because their defense played lights out in the second half. They created turnovers. They got back to that style of ball. But against the better teams that they'll face on their schedule, they need to not do this to yourselves a lot here. I think that this slow start, they overcame, but it needs to not be a factor moving forward. Even if it's just field goals at least, don't come out with 3 and outs to put yourself in a hole. Better teams will capitalize on that. Noah, what's your ugly?
I think our ugly, you and I, this was an ugly win, and we say that in a good way. That's how this football team is built to win, by getting ugly, by winning in the trenches, by forcing turnovers, getting big stops, and grinding out long drives. What Pitt's offense did, I think, in the second half, too, should be noted, where, yes, it wasn't putting up points, but it milked the clock. Yes. And it didn't derail the defense's progress. Mm-hmm. And was it pretty to watch? No. It was a very bad show. Like, aesthetically, it was not pleasing at all, especially in the fourth quarter offensively. But overall, it was an ugly, grinded-out win, which is what Pat Narduzzi's program has been known to do, except for, the 1 year where Kenny Pickett just put up $1 million on pretty much everyone. Overall, that's how they're going to have to win football games this year. until, their offense potentially develops into something like 2021, if they can ever get back to that level. But right now, this is a team that's going to win through defense, through getting ugly in the trenches, by mucking it up, and by taking advantage of the opportunities that its defense created. And they did that today. The quarterback was good enough. It wasn't beautiful. I mean, 12 of 26 is not amazing.
No, not at all.
But it was good enough to win. They win ugly, and that is how Pitt, if it's going to find a way into a bowl, Chris, that's how it's going to happen. They need to win these ugly games against good opponents.
I mean, my post-game analysis after the Virginia Tech loss was that they had lost their identity, and it was this style of football that we had not seen from Pitt. On the offensive side, grinding out plays. The 4th and 1 that Sebo Flemister had, I know he didn't have a great stat line in this game, but that was a tough, gritty run. The Pitt's offensive line, they pushed the guys forward. Sebo Flemister charged up in there, converted, and kept the drive alive there. On the defensive side of the ball, they stuffed the run a lot better this game than we'd seen. They got after the quarterback. They were containing the quarterback. They missed a couple tackles, but a lot less than they had in previous games. Those type of things are the things we had not seen, and this is why I wrote. I was like, Pitt had lost its identity in its last game. This is Pitt's identity, winning ugly, and hey, if the quarterback's not going to light it up, that's fine. If that comes someday, that's a bonus. But the way that the Pitt plays, they get after the quarterback, they create turnovers, they stuff the run, they force you to take risks, and then they capitalize on it. That's what got them this win over Louisville. And Noah, this is the highest ranked team they've beaten since 2017 when they took down Miami in Kenny Pickett's first start.
Another first start. You could say that, they found a way to get it done, Chris.
They found a way.
They blue vased it. If you don't know what that reference is by now, I don't think you've been following Pitt football very closely. But
let me just say that is, it's funny. Full disclosure for those who might be behind, the Pitt put a blue vase on like a pillar in their lobby, walking in throughout the week, and we were unsure what it was. We had heard that it was something along the lines of they were putting their negative thoughts in it, and that was incorrect. And we were told by Pat Narduzzi, and we shown a whole video of what the vase actually meant, and it was basically a story that came down to get the job done no matter what, and that's where all this came from. And Pitt, they rallied around that concept. And it's funny, Noah, coming into this, man, like when we tweeted that out, we just thought it was a simple football guy thing. They're like, hey, that's cool. They're trying to put the past behind them and keep focus on the future. And it became this whole thing where everyone's like, you don't understand the blue vase. And man, at first I was like, man, this kind of, I wish we never would have tweeted this before. But the way they responded and the belief we saw in these guys, Christian Veilleux was taking pictures with the vase. Pat Narduzzi came out in his post-game press conference with the vase, puts it on the podium, and then he starts talking to us. I'm kind of like, you know what? This is kind of fun. I actually like the blue vase. I hope it stays out all year and this becomes a theme. We'll keep asking about it after every win.
I will say Branson Taylor should not be playing with a blue vase in his sock. Apparently he did on Saturday against the Cardinals. I just feel like that's a health hazard, yes. But nonetheless, it's fun to contribute to some storylines on this season. Absolutely. And very fun win for the Panthers. A fun one to cover, I'm sure. A fun one for the fans here for homecoming, and definitely makes things interesting moving on here for the rest of the season. Chris, any final thoughts while we wrap this up?
Just that we said before in our mailbag segment, if Pitt was going to start the turnaround, it needed to start now. What was it? 2001 when they had that 2001 they started off terrible. I think it was 1-4, and they turned it around. They became bowl eligible. Not saying that's going to happen this year, but this was the kind of win that can reset it. Now they play a Wake Forest team that's 3-3, 0-3 in the ACC. They're going on the road. You stack back-to-back wins, then you're playing your ranked teams coming after that, Notre Dame and what's the other? Florida State, two major opponents. We don't know about that, but if they beat Wake Forest, all of a sudden they're 3-4, and they're looking at, could this be a turnaround point in the season, and could it be a stepping stone for next year's Panthers to walk into it with a lot more confidence?
Yeah, I said on the mailbag, if they could beat this team, they can beat pretty much any team on their schedule aside from maybe Florida State, because I mean this team just beat the brakes off of Notre Dame
just
last weekend. So it'll be interesting, and we'll have you covered through every step of the way until this season ends. He's Chris Carter. I'm Noah Hiles. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Apple Podcast channel for more podcast content. Click below for a special deal of 99 cents for a 3-month subscription to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.